My name is Patrick. I'm diagnosed with depression, angst, and suicide ideology. My first time that I really realized that I struggled with mental health came shortly after starting the process of going through a divorce. I didn't have an identity for myself. I didn't have a purpose at that point, and I thought that we had something completely unique and special to finding out that there was nothing really there, and it just completely changed. But I also started seeing a therapist to cope and realized that a lot of the issues that I had growing up had never been curated or healed. So I was forced to address those abandonment issues, issues for lacking that motherly touch or that love, and not having a female consistent in my life. You know, I think fathers and mothers are very different. Fathers, can kind of teach you, kind of how to harden and toughen up, especially as a boy. But at the end of the day, I think that we all kind of crave that motherly touch, in that sense of healing that moms bring. And so I didn't have that, and I grew up very emotional, dealing with all of these things, to the point where I went to the complete opposite, and where I didn't cry for 7 years. And that's significant because I held on to that hardness, I held on to that darkness for a very long time. And that contributed to adding me to basically continuously cross the line. Eventually, to the point where I get to that line that many people don't cross and many people don't get to come back from, which was attempting suicide. Yeah, the first time, basically, must have been 45, 50 pills. And I just kept throwing them in and chugging them down. I remember passing out for like 18 hours and waking up and just having to puke my guts out. And you wake up and you're groggy, you're dazed, but you're alone. No one's there to take care of you. No one's there to make sure that you didn't do it. And then there's also another part on top of that load. It's kind of like an additional kick you while you're down, that you couldn't even succeed in this. So then you feel like that you have failed everything, that you couldn't even complete the one task that was supposed to heal it. Cutting allowed me to get kind of a high, so to speak, to maybe feel like something was real, to make me realize that life was real, because I felt like nobody should have to suffer this much. Nobody should have to feel this much pain, so much isolation, so much heartbreak. And so I used to cut the back of my legs. I would cut just parts of my skin, enough just to make it bleed a little bit. I remember laying in the bathtub and I would do that stuff, and I would take the blood and just kind of write myself cryptic messages. Sometimes I didn't even know what I was putting out there. And all the meanwhile, like, I'm doing this and my son is sleeping, in the room next door. And to sit there and think that, like, this is your lineage, this is your father, this is going to be passed on to you someday. And when you think about that, you have a responsibility for somebody else. It definitely takes its toll and weighs heavily on you. I think a lot of times people take parenting for granted, because it's just kind of what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be able to take care of our kids and all that stuff, but I really failed. The example that I set during that time was horrible, and he never saw me, but he knew that I was in a dark place. He knew, I would blow up at him, and he's a little kid. Had nothing to do with him, but I didn't know how to deal with it. It was internalizing everything over the course of 25 years. I literally tried everything. Therapy, tried to stay busy, to read, I would watch TV, got into creative writing, that helped quite a bit. Started working on independent film and TV shows and recording music, recording poetry, writing a book. I literally thought of everything I could to try and fill the void. And ultimately, none of that worked. And it came down to really my son one time just basically saying, am I not good enough? And it broke my heart to know that is this my legacy? Is this what I'm going to leave behind? And so I really had to start diagnosing myself and face myself, which is probably the hardest thing I've ever done in the entire world. It's easy, I think, to get caught up in judgment with the world of others. But when you have to face yourself, look in the mirror every single morning, and realize that it's not so bad. There are worse things. I can do better. If I'm not happy with the results, I can fix them. And did I believe that most of the time? Absolutely not. But one day, it just kind of started clicking, and it got easier. It got easier to share the story. I didn't have this mark of shame or this scorn that I had crossed a line. Instead, it started becoming part of the journey, part of the process. It started becoming inspiration for others. It started becoming a staple in my journey that allowed me to be authentic and to be a beacon for others, and utilizing the momentum of that taught me to go online and find a tribe, taught me to build a business and use those things online to build a business tribe, to now take on roles of mentoring, public speaking, and coaching. This is real, how I feel. I can't believe this is me, this Subculture sanctuary. This is what it must feel like when angels lose its wings. I think everybody has probably dabbled on there, almost kind of like you walked around a lake, right? And you know what water looks like. You touched water in the past, you wash your hands with it, you shower with it. And so on the surface, you know what a lake looks like. But until you're drowning in that lake, until you've hit the bottom and you've had to crawl and swim your way to the very top, gasping for breath, I don't think you have a full understanding. And not to say that one person's story is more than the others, because it's not, because the struggle for every single person is very different. But I think that there is a big understanding for those who have had to struggle with it versus those who basically touch base with it. And maybe you don't know the difference, and maybe you do. That's not for anyone to really decide. But I know that when people talk about mental health, I now stop and listen. I now connect with somebody on a deeper level because of it. When I talk with other suicide survivors, I have that understanding, and with it gives us an appreciation for each other. But because we hit those really low lows, it also gives us an appreciation for the really high highs. I never thought that I'd be in this position, and I never thought that anybody would ever have the idea of wanting to be around me, much less consider marriage. That somebody could envision their life with me being in it for the long term, because I didn't even see it. I always thought that I'd be stuck working for somebody else to now having 3 entities launched in the last 2 years, crossing over $1 million in sales within the first business within 16 months. Going from firing my boss and working for somebody else miserable to 6-figure passive income and just enjoying every single moment, waking up and asking people how I can help them, how I can serve them, and trying to be an advocate for mental health, for awareness, breaking the stigma. I just want to say that don't be afraid to be authentically you, no matter what you're going through. Don't be afraid to own your mental health, because it's part of the story, it's part of the journey. And I'm trying to allow and give space to people to realize that this was my greatest strength, even though for a long time it was my greatest weakness. And being able to utilize and now use my story to help encapsulate everything, to be able to use that to now be my biggest asset, to be able to connect with people in my businesses where other people can't reach. And so if you're going through something, don't be afraid. Reach out for help. There's plenty of resources that you can access, and realize that you need to grow through what you're going through, and you need to be selfish in this manner to take care of yourself, so that way you can be selfless.